Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good day. Welcome to 1 Hour 1 Ship Part 2. This is going to be the second iteration of 1 Hour 1 Ship that is updated for many of the things that we didn't have in the first 1 Hour 1 Ship. So for anyone who hasn't watched any of these before or is just new to building in Starbase, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be building a ship from scratch and describing it like a tutorial as I build it. And it should take roughly an hour, give or take, depending on what we put on it. So I guess let's just hop right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to start with is your beams. So second tab on the left, and you have all of these options. So since we're just going to be building a smaller ship, I prefer the 192 centimeter beams, but you can definitely go with 384s. So you just pull them out and you place them down like this. And so you'll notice right now they're very freeform, so you're going to have to put a couple of them together. And so one of the things you're going to notice first off is if you press X, Y, or Z keys, you can't actually see it there, it will rotate the beam. I am not going to use these just so you can visually see it, but I want you guys to know it is there and it's something you can do. So when starting off with a beam structure, you really want to have it be something where there are multiple connection points. Every beam has to be connected to at least 2 other beams for it to actually have a proper connection. And so right now we're just going to make a box. It's more of a rectangle, but we'll make this, and then we're going to extend it forwards just like this, and this will form the bottom of our ship. And so as you can see, it's very grid-like, and grids are usually very good in Starbase. There are many kinds of beams you can choose from. There are special beams, intersection beams, all of these, and building with just straight beams is currently the preferred method and will have no detrimental effects. So when you're building your beam structure, you want to account for height. So there are many different parts you're going to be putting on the inside of your ship in Starbase. So one of the things you might want to do is you might want to have planning ahead and just look at all the different devices and hard points, machinery, everything in here, so you know what you're placing down. For instance, one of the things that a small ship ideally should build around is the generator you're putting inside of it. So a generator, so if we just take a generator, it is that tall. So as you can see, the 92 centimeter beam is exactly in line with that. But we ideally would like a little bit more space. But the 192, it seems really tall. And since the ship isn't very wide, what we can do is we can just make it wider. There's literally nothing stopping you. So we'll make the ship double wide, and then this way we'll be able to get a lot more stuff on the inside. So we're going to just have it be 192 for example purposes, but remember, you can always make the ship smaller or however you like it. So we'll just get this going. And this is going to be a very basic skiff. So nothing fancy, it's just going to work and show you guys how the game works. So when we're putting all of this together, all of our beam structures, we want to make sure, as I said earlier, everything has 2 connection points. So just like that, every beam has 2 connection points, whether it be something like this, where the center beam is a little off. Hold up. Yeah, I think that's off actually. So yeah, I've played for over 400 hours and I still get stuff wrong. So don't worry about when you get something wrong. You can just fix it super easy. So this will be our box. And then after we build our box, the one thing you want to do is on your right side in your toolbox, you're going to see a ton of different tools. So the one you're going to want to go to is this one right here. So it's the welding tool. So if you press it and your beams turn up orange, that means they have not been welded. So personally, I like to apply to all just because there's no reason to do apply by selection. So you just click and boom, all of these beams are connected and will not separate. And so it will all show as one frame. So this tool is the durability tool that I just used to look at that. It'll tell you what's on the frame and if it is a functional ship. So after I get in my structure, usually what I like to do is I start putting in machinery. So this will come in the form of generators and thrusters and propellant tanks. So personally, when we put in a thruster, you keep in mind all thrusters are going to have areas behind them. So the exhaust of a thruster, I believe, where does it come out? I think it comes out back here. But the exhaust of a thruster is going to, yeah, it comes out back there. The exhaust of a thruster is going to corrode items. So you can't have thrusters on the inside, or you can't have anything that's blocking them, or else they'll be corroded away. So in the past, you could just grab one of these, a thruster box, but this is tier 1. So there are multiple tiers of most machinery in Starbase. So tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And I'm going to explain real quick what all of those are. So tier 1 to 3, 1 is the lowest, and it usually will provide the least efficient and the least amount of oomph, bang for your buck. So the least amount of thrust or the least amount of power, and one of the higher consumptions of fuels. Tier 2 is generally where you want to be at, especially with thrusters. It provides a medium amount of thrust, and also it takes a lesser amount of propellant and electricity to start it than even a tier 1. And then tier 3 takes more fuel, but it also is so much faster. So it's a give and take. And then when you're working with generators, it's roughly the same thing. So when you're using generator units, we'll get to that when we get to generators. But so we'll just put on tier 1s for the sake of this. So when you put in a thruster or other things, you're going to notice there are these. So this, when you look at this, what you should think is hardpoint. So this is a device hardpoint. This is a small hardpoint, and there's a large hardpoint. You can use either. There's nothing stopping you from either one. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a large one just for a proof of concept. So a large one is nice when you're placing down thrusters, because if you notice these little orange areas right there, those are where bolts go, and they'll connect up really nicely with this. So we're going to try and move this so that it's right in the middle. In Starbase, you'll have thrust balancing, but we want to make sure that it's already as lined up as it can be. So we'll just do this, we'll select it all, and we'll move it in, and just like that, but we want to line it up. So it should snap right onto place, and if it doesn't, one thing you can do is vertex snapping. So if it doesn't snap right into place, what you can do is, the hotkey is 7, but it's just called snap, but it's actually vertex snapping. You have the thing you want to snap selected, you select a point, then you go to what you want to snap it to, select the other point, and there you go. It's just like that. And then also, if, say, you're trying to snap, so right here you can see it's snapping, but oh no, it's suddenly not snapping, you can toggle snapping by hitting Shift and C, and that enables and disables snapping. So sometimes people like that, sometimes they don't. It's just personal preference. And then, so another thing you can do that I like to use is if you select everything. So if you select everything you're working with, hold Shift and drag, it copies. And remember, so it will keep all the same values. So if you see in here like thruster state and current thruster, so that is going to be kept. So like if you name thruster state to like W, X, Y, and Z, then you copy it, it's still going to be W, X, Y, and Z in the next thruster. And so a quick overview, this little box right here is the properties. So it goes over everything that you can interact with in that item. So not every item has it, like you won't see it for these beams, but you see the material. We'll get to that later. So now you've got your 2 tier 1 thrusters. They're on either side. Now, you can do is you can utilize one of the tools that Starbase has and many people use. It is the auto bolt tool. So as in its base, you just have add bolts. You can click and it will add bolts to the entire construction. But when you start building bigger ships, one thing you might want to do is if you add on a part, like that back part we just did, is you want to hit only apply to selection, because as you start auto bolting larger and larger ships, it'll slow down and take longer, and that'll just save you a lot of time. So now that we've got our 2 thrusters on, what we want to do is we want to be able to supply power and propellant. So to start off, let's do our power. So we're going to go down here. So under machinery and power, we are going to pick out our generators. So we are going to use generator tier 1s for this, for the sake of simplicity. So to build a generator, what you need is you need a generator unit. Then you need your, where is it? You'll need either a cooling rack or, oh man, you know, it still takes me forever to find something. I'll just pull out all the parts and I'll show you how to put it all together. And then where is our fuel chamber? Fuel chamber tier 1. Okay, so these are all the parts of a generator right here. The first part is your fuel chamber. This is where you're going to stick these fuel rods. So these are going to be the fuel that a generator uses to create electricity. And it just goes in right like that. You don't have to bolt it in or anything. Then next you're going to want to have connected is a generator unit. So for each fuel chamber, you can have 3 generator units and it will run at full efficiency. Then the next items you'll want to have is a generator socket board. So this goes on to one of those little spots right there, and these are all the connection points for the generator. What this does is this lets you connect cables. So this lets you get power out of the generator, and also, if you wanted to, automate the generator. And then right here is we have 2 items. So you can use these interchangeably, but I prefer to only use the one on the right. So right here, this is a cooling rack, and on the right is a pipe socket board. So there are 2 methods of cooling. You can use a cooling cell. These cooling cells will provide the generator with coolant, and coolant is necessary to run the generator at a reasonable speed. So it is required that you have one of these 2. Now what you can do is you can install this pipe socket board onto your generator, and then in your pipe network, which I'll show later, you can hook up a radiator, or you can just put this directly on there. But keep in mind, these cells, they run out, so you're going to have to replace them. So let's pull this in, and we'll do a 3 generator setup, because that's just the most optimal. So we'll put this in here, and just set that down right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this pipe socket board on there, and it's connected normally, just like that. And then we'll also set down these cooling racks with these cells, just so I can demonstrate to you really what they do. So there you go. And then one thing we want to do is, so your generator, you notice it's kind of got an overhang. So one thing you can do is just add in more bits to your frame if you want it to be a little bit more secure, but that's not necessarily needed. So we'll just leave it as is right now. So next up, we've got our power. What we want to do is we want to get our propellant. So normally it is it in here? Yes, okay. So you want to build it. There are 3 sizes. So there's large, nope, that's the wrong one, medium, and small. So it all depends on the ship you're using for size, but the jump is drastic from each of these. And of course it doesn't update right here, but this I believe stores 1.5 million, or okay, 1 million, then 4 million, then 9 million. So it drastically changes, but we're only going to need to use the 1 million. So we'll just drag this over. Now it does not go in just like this. So you're going to see this tank support. You're going to want to put this on, and it looks just like that. You do not have to put it on both sides, but you can. And so this is what it looks like when you have the supports on. So what we'll do is we'll set it right here, and just for the sake of mirroring, we'll put it right there as well. And then I will bolt them in. So what we're going to do is boom, and notice how we had applied a selection. So it may, if we were doing a bigger ship, it would have gone much faster. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that they are secured properly. So we'll go to hotkey number 6 for the durability tool and click. So we're going to notice several things. First off, they're red and yellow, and that's not good. And then there's also some text over here. So the ship warp class of 0.17. So ship warp class is essentially how strong your ship is, and it's on a scale of essentially 0 to infinity. So 1 on ship warp class essentially is your ship can fly and there will be no major issues. If you go several pieces above that though, it just gets, your ship can take much better hits, especially like if it's a mining vessel and you might hit an asteroid, it'll protect your ship much better. So to fix these, what you can do is if you have the durability tool selected, click on the red. So you look at it and it'll tell you exactly what's wrong. So here, it tells us we need 1 more bolt at least for a connection. So we'll put that in and boom, it's good. Now we go over here. This one, it says it needs another bolt and it says to put it over here. So we put it over there. And so it'll tell you where the bolts are by these flashing areas, and it'll tell you if it's a bad bolt because it'll be flashing red. So that way you can know immediately if there's a specific bad bolt. So we'll just fix this one up real quick. And there we go. And then you'll notice stuff like this. Part has one of the lowest valid master abilities in the ship, class 1.75. So that means if you wanted to make your ship very strong and durable, you could start increasing that by putting in extra bolts, securing that down much better, and it would allow you to have a much stronger ship. But for our purposes, we only need it to be above 1, because above 1 will fly and nothing will fall off. And so now that we have everything in, what we're going to do is we want to go to the pilot's chair. So we're going to close some things here just to keep us straight. So we're going to go into devices. So there is a lot of stuff in devices, and not all of it is currently relevant to us. But the first thing we're going to go to is controls. So controls is exactly what it sounds like. So we're going to take our pilot chair, and even though it says pilot chair, this is not everything you need for a pilot chair. This is just the seat, the area where you would sit. It does not function. So what you're going to want to get is the pilot chair stand. So boom, right there. Now, once you bolt these together, just like that, that is a functioning pilot seat, and that is exactly what you're looking for. However, if you want to, there are optional things you can add in, such as pilot chair sides. So these are armrests for your endo, and I honestly kind of like putting them in just because they do look cool. And then the other optional item is this. So this is a pilot control table. So this will insert right there, so make sure it's inserted right there, because sometimes it likes to snap below, and that's not right. That won't work. It has to be right there. And so what that lets you do is it lets you put controls and things like gauges right on this table in front of you. So we'll take this chair, and what we want to do is we want to put it in the center, and we'll actually move it in a little bit. Right about there. So if you look closely, you'll see these two spots. they're also mirrored on the other side. Those are the bolting spots. So usually you want to have those on a beam directly, or if you have a plate down, have a beam below that plate. So what we'll do is we'll select the area and we'll snap it, or bolt it, my bad. And there it goes, and it's all nice and dandy. Now, you'll notice with these armrests, it is likely to fall off. So some things, they may just fall off if they're not secured well enough. So you gotta watch out for that, because that can also bring down your warp class. So next, what we want to do is add in more thrusters. So we've got our main thrusters, right? And so we can go forwards, and if you turned on the right one, we could go left. If you turned on the left one, we could go right. But there's no other options. So what we would want to add is maneuvering thrusters. Now, on larger ships, you probably don't want to use what we're about to use, and I'll explain to you in a second. So there are thrusters specifically called maneuvering thrusters. So we're going to go over those. And alright, so these are the tier 1s. These essentially just spit out a little bit of gas. It's, if you're familiar with space, it's like an RCS, a reaction control system. And they will rotate you about, but they are not strong. So they are only good for really turning ships. And the thing is, as I said, they are not strong. You do not want to be using these on larger ships. So why you don't want to be using those is because these are not efficient. Just simply, they're not efficient. They don't give you that much thrust. So you might want to use different kinds of thrusters. You can use main ship thrusters as maneuvering thrusters if you'd like. Most people, so there are 3 kinds of thrusters: maneuvering, box, and triangle. These are maneuvering, these are box, and these right here are triangle. And most people will use these triangle thrusters for maneuvering on large ships. That's not important to us. I just want to make sure you all know, because it is important to keep an eye out, and I want to make sure that if you guys do want to make a large ship, that you would be able to. Alright, and so you see me copying all of these around. I am just holding shift and dragging, so shift and dragging, and that just copies them. And so there we go, and then switch to our move, and there we go. Alright, so this could theoretically be all of the maneuver thrusters we need, because we are able to now get roll out of it, because these can be activated and these can be deactivated. We can also get pitch, because these can be activated, these can be deactivated, and we can also get yaw. So these can be activated, those are deactivated. You get the gist of it. And the only thing is, you usually like to work in pairs. So you notice how we have these two, this pair up front, and then this pair up in the back. That'll really help for turning fast. But on the front, we've only got 2 here and 2 on the other side. Just remember, everything has a mass. So if you follow me up to the top, you'll see these visualization tools and the center of mass. Well, okay, let's bolt them in and I'll show you the center of mass. Alright, there we go. Okay, so the center of mass is back here. So your thrust and your turning thrust will also depend on your center of mass. Basic physics principle. So we are going to leave it like this, but ideally if you have more space back here, you can put these, say, right there and right below it to turn your ship faster. And also, you may be asking, so you see this, and remember I told you earlier in the video, think device hardpoint. So you see that it looks exactly like a device hardpoint, and that you could put one of these on there, on that thruster. No, you cannot. You would have to put this device hardpoint first, facing outwards, before you could put a maneuver thruster on there. So watch out for that, because that might not work well. Alright, and so this has come to the point where we have our thrust in, we have our generator in, we have our propellant in, and we have our chair to control stuff by. So what's next, you might be asking? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back. Is it controls? It is in controls. Is it controls? Yes, okay. So these two items I'm about to place are the most important of almost any ship. First, the main flight computer, and second, the flight control unit. The flight control unit comes in 3 tiers: basic, premium, or actually which is next? Okay, it goes basic, advanced, premium, and they all come with different capabilities. The basic is just, it's basic. Forward, backwards, pitch, yaw, and roll. And that's all we need for this. But if you wanted to go more advanced, you can get directly up, down, and left, right maneuvers, or you can get really weird rolls and stuff with the premium. But we aren't going to use those. So if you look at the FCU, you're going to notice it has arrows on it. You want these arrows to be facing the front of your ship, and you want the side to be facing upwards. That is the most important part. If you do not do that, your ship will be wonky. It will fly wrong, and it will misidentify your thrusters. So you need to have that. So what these do is the FCU, it will take inputs from your controls, and then it will send it to this MFC. So the MFC, the main flight computer, has all of these thruster power levels. This is what will control your thrusters. So essentially, they have to work in tandem. And you could theoretically have multiple flight controls contributing to here. As you can see, there's 2 slots, but on most ships, you will only ever need 1. So let's place this in. So right there, and right there. And so this is just so that they can get bolted down really well, and that they do have bolting spots. So once we get everything bolted down, you ask, what's next? Well, in Starbase, you actually have to wire and cable everything. And first, you're going to notice, auto bolt did us dirty. It did not actually connect these. So there are some items that if you don't do it right, or if you don't place it in the proper spot, you're going to have to bolt everything yourself, like this. So these 2 bolt areas, they're just like that. So actually what we're going to do is we are going to put this a little bit back. We're going to bring this here. That way, hopefully this can bolt down. Okay, no it won't. So we'll just go in, manually move that flight computer out of the way. Bolt. Bolt. Can we fit in another? We can. Oh, this is... So, it can be a little jank, but don't worry about it. As long as you're not getting any red icons or anything, you'll be fine. And also, Control Z does work, so if you want to undo something, that is something that you can do. Alright, so now that those are in, we have to connect everything in this ship. So, if you've seen earlier, we've got all of these circles, right? These holes. So, they're in all kinds of different places, and these are going to be what we are connecting cables and pipes to. So, I personally like to start forwards and work my way back. So, first off, you want to connect your pilot seat. So, just coming out like that. And you can do it however you like, so you don't have to do it how I am. And so we're just going to do it like this, and you're probably going to wonder, why am I stopping right here? So I will show you once we connect these up. I just wanted to not jump the gun, because there are several things in Starbase that are complicated concepts, and I don't want to get you confused right off the bat. So we'll just connect this here, connect that there, connect this here, connect that there. And it's very easy to connect these. If you see the cable you're placing is white, that means it's good. But if you see it's like purplish, pinkish like that, it's not good. So don't do that one. Alright, so now those are connected, but only to cable. Notice I said only to cable. We'll get to that in a second. So, in this version of Starbase, there's a thing called ducts. They're in networking, and they are a very handy way of extending your cables and pipes. So, when you're building a ship, if you go up here, you've got a building budget. So, you've got a voxel volume you have to abide by, number of weapons, warheads, etc. And the one thing you're going to be paying attention to is bolts and cables. We will never have to worry about this because this is such a small ship, but on larger ships, you are going to have to worry about it. So one thing you can do is you can use these ducts. So if you place these down, if it'll place down, okay, it won't because of how we've constructed it, but I'm just going to show you how to use these. So you place it down, always be sure to bolt it. Bolt it first before you place anything on it. But say you have a cable coming from over here, you can connect it to anywhere on the surface of the duct, and then if you connect a cable on the other side, the duct will connect them. So that's a very handy way you can save space. And if we were able to connect these directly to each other and have a row of ducts that are right next to each other, it will transfer the signal between all of them. So it's a very handy tool, and especially on larger ships, makes things so much easier because you can kind of just pipe both your cables and your pipes into there. But so first, we are just going to do cables through the entire ship. So you can do them simultaneously, but I like to do cables first, then pipes, just out of principle. So you got to make sure everything's connected. Now, you don't have to have just one connection. You can have two. It won't change anything. I just like to do it because if you get bumped, say by an asteroid, and something falls off, you want to make sure that if a cable or a pipe falls off somewhere, that you might have an extra that might save you. So, what we'll do is we finished up with up here. So, we're going to kind of go to the back. Now, on this ship, it's somewhat cluttered, but on other ships it'll be even more cluttered. So if you want to connect to something and say you're trying to look really close in between different pieces, what you can do is you can use the tools over on the left to help you out. So say you want to get rid of these beams so that you can like look past them. You hit the eye. So there. Now you can't see the beams. You can still touch them, but you can't see them. And so that's where the lock icon comes in. Now you can't even touch the beams, and you can't see them either. So that's a very handy tool if you're trying to get on the inside of a ship. So say you're trying to get behind something like this. So I believe, is it machinery? Yeah, it's machinery. So you can hide and lock it, and that way you can just build really easily through it. And that way your view isn't obstructed, and you can build just really quick, really fast, right through it. And you don't have to worry about clicking on anything. And it does get really nice when you have massive ships and you've got to, place something that you forgot on the inside. Because, let's face it, even I forget things from time to time. So, it's okay. A lot of people I've talked to are scared about making ships. Not scared, I would say, but, concerned. Like, about difficulty, if they can do it, that they're gonna mess up. And it doesn't matter. You're gonna mess up, but so did I. The fact that you're able to watch this video to learn is gonna be better than just not. So, real quick, what we're gonna do is we're gonna unhide and unlock our machinery so that we can plug in our power. So these propellant tanks, you have to plug them in too. They have to have power. And then also this right here. So you're going to notice I placed it in a really awkward position. You don't have to do this. You can change things around. So say we don't want it there. Let's just move it to the side. It won't work right there. Here, let's turn it right here. That'll be fine. We'll select the thing behind it, bolt them together, perfect. And then cable, we'll connect it. It's a little janky, but that's okay. There we go, so now it's connected. Alright, so now everything should be connected to power. So you're looking for the little green icon on all of the things. So it looks like all of that's good. So now we'll switch to pipe. So pipe carries two things. It carries propellant and it carries coolant. So first off, we're going to do our coolant. Well, okay. Technically, we're just doing propellant right now. I'll get to that later. But so you'll notice there are these blue boxes. So blue boxes, those are, well, it's all blue boxes, but these are different kinds of blue boxes. So the first thing you're going to want to have it do is you're going to want to have it come out of the propellant tanks. So obviously these are where you're going to be getting your propellant, so you have to make sure that they are connected. So what we're going to do is we're going to place that there, and we're going to place that over here, and then I'm going to go and hide machinery again. This way we can work very easily without being messed up by anything. So we're just going to build like that. And one thing I'd be wary of is if you're able to place parts floating, like say you have a part like that. Come on. So it looks like it's connected to everything. But if you're able to place down a pipe or a cable that isn't connected, every segment isn't connected, watch out, because if you'll hit something, that might fall off. Alright. And so you can connect two things to the same socket, but I don't like doing that, because if you ever end up needing to repair something, that's just going to be really annoying. And so these ducts up here, they work exactly the same with propellant. So you can just connect them real quick and it's all good. Alrighty. And it's gonna save us just that little bit. And yeah, a lot of these things, you know, if you guys have watched my channel before, you guys know I'm a big ship builder. So a lot of the things I'm saying are big ship items that you would want to keep in mind. So yeah, I like to build big ships, you know, you might eventually like to as well. Alright, so remember, when you're placing something down, if you see those boxes on the end, whether it be with cable or with pipe, so with cable, it's red, with pipe, it's yellow like that, that means it's not connected. So you're going to want to make sure everything is connected. Now, you'll see these, they look like they aren't, but because they're connected to this duct, they count as connected. So we'll take a look around and we'll make sure everything is properly connected. And it looks like we missed a spot. So we missed up here. So let's do that real quick. Alright, there we go. There's one, and there's the other. Okay, so now everything should be connected by both pipe and cable. So we're going to unhide everything, and we'll take a quick look. So you're going to notice I didn't hook up the pipe to here. That's because we don't necessarily need it right now. If you have cooling cells, you don't need to hook it up to a radiator, but these will run out. Now, what a radiator does is once we hook it up to the pipe network, is it will do our cooling needs, but the thing is, it won't use anything. The only thing it uses is electricity. So that way it really never depletes, which it's a preference of mine to have a radiator, but some people like cooling cells. But yeah, I'm just a radiator guy. That's how it is. So a radiator, first you're going to need a device hardpoint. Just slap it down like that. You can put it anywhere. Just in the future, it has to be on the outside of your ship. That's how Frozen Byte wants them to operate. That's currently not the way they operate, but in the future, do that. So we'll go to power, and the first thing you're going to want to get is this. It's a radiator base. So I'm going to turn it. This way, if we want to, we can build it longer. And then, so radiator extensions. So how you want to extend it is, you see on this, we've got an orange side and a non-orange side. Always connect the orange side to the last part you placed. So like this. Boom, 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 and we'll bolt all of this down. And then now this needs to be connected. And just to check, yep, okay, it is on the ship. Now I will say, these are very touchy radiators, I mean, so they are not strong. So one thing you might want to do is add in extra bolts. So if you'll see, our warp class was 1.68 a little bit ago, but because of this, how weak these are, it's gone down a lot. So just add in some extra bolts here. We'll get our warp class back up. And adding bolts will sometimes make things freak out a little bit, but you can add in a couple. If it doesn't go well, you can just hit your Ctrl Z and everything will be fine. And so, okay, right now you've got all of the workings, except for one thing, of a pretty good ship. So the last thing you need is controls. And this is optional, but I like to put them in, like gauges. So your controls, if we close all of these, they are going to be in devices and, well, controls. So that's fairly straightforward. So there are several levers you're going to want to use. So we've got our standard lever. So this is what we're going to use as our throttle. All right. So that's just 0 to 100. And then for maneuvering around, we want to use a middle lever. So a middle lever is the same, except it starts at 0 and can go to 100 or negative 100. And so what we'll do is we'll take these over to our ship. And so I'm going to show you something that you can do that will help you place these down. So you can put these throttles onto this platform. If you put them onto that platform, you don't have to hook them up, because you'll see these need a cable connection. But if you put them onto that platform and that platform is hooked up to your chair, you won't have to do that. But if you place them elsewhere, they will. Now, one thing you can do is you don't have to place them there. You just have to place them near to your chair so that you can use them. So what we're going to do is we're going to place down a plate, and we'll put these on there. And that way we can free up this area for controls. Other controls, I mean. So we'll go down here to plates, basic plates, and let's get something reasonable, like 96 by 96. And so let's put it there and there, again for the mirroring. Now, if you were to try and bolt these, it's not going to work because you have them in line. So what you have to do is you can bolt them through these little ridges right here, like that, if you'd like. Or if you don't like that, you can just have them as exterior plating. You can place down some exterior plates right here, and they'll bolt in just fine, just like that. And then you can put our controls on top of it. So we'll do that just because it's easier, but that's just a style choice. And also it lets you do 2 layers of armor if you'd like. So you're going to notice this is with snapping on, and it feels really janky. Like you can't move this there. It freaks out. So this is one of those moments where you might want to purposefully disable snapping. So I'm going to disable snapping by holding Shift and then C, and there we go. Then what we'll do is we'll just move it around using the arrows. So fairly simple. And we'll just put this right over there by his friend. and get them kind of lined up. And I'm gonna rotate this around just so that those socket areas, so that's what that's called, a socket, are on the same side. And then, so you're probably wondering, if you are, how many levers do I need? So that's where you want to go to your FCU. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options for levers. So we're not going to use FCU backward because we don't have any forward facing thrusters. You don't need it for every ship. Backwards can be nice though, especially if you're doing mining. So it's just personal preference, and you can do a backwards engine with maneuver thrusters because it doesn't necessarily have to be fast, but you can also do it with regular thrusters. Just totally personal preference. So since we're not going to be using backward, that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4 levers that we need. So FCU forward, that's 0 to 100. But all of these, rotational pitch, yaw, and roll, these are negative 100 to 100. So that means for those ones, we're going to want to have these middle levers. So again, shift and drag to copy them. So now we have 3 middle levers and 1 main thrust lever. So we'll connect these like this. Oh, if it wants to work with me. Oh, that's going to be janky, but sometimes it's just like that. Okay, so now that those are connected, we want to make sure they're bolted. There they go. And those should all be very secure. Yes, they are. So now what you want to do is you want to name these levers as you see in here. So FCU forward, so we're going to go over here. So you're going to see all of these things. So we want to go to lever state. So click on it, backspace, and then type in FCU forward. All right. And then we'll go to the other one. So we want to do FCU rotational pitch, yaw, and roll. It doesn't matter which one you put these on, but if you want to have it in a particular way, you can. So we'll have that be roll. Then we'll have this one be pitch, FCU rotational pitch, and then FCU rotational yaw. Yeah. All right. So if we did everything right, this ship should work. So let's try it. Okay. So you're gonna notice nothing's happening. That means we did something wrong. So let's figure out what we did wrong. So going around, the first thing I'm gonna check is, so if you press U, you can see certain things about an object. So we're gonna go over to this thruster and we're gonna look at it. And when stuff is updating like this, that means that it is connected to the network. And then by seeing this, I've realized that I, may be a little bit stupid. So the FCU and MFC, so those are the 2 objects behind the pilot's chair that we had and that we were just messing with. So those, they control the thrusters, right? They take inputs from those levers that we just put down and they control our thrusters. However, you actually have to have the thrusters named for them to work. So if you look at the MFC, you'll see this thruster power level 0, 1 all the way through 50. And so if you don't want to do it manually, what you can do is you see this little thruster tool, go up here, and I prefer to have it on manual, but you can have it automatically name everything. You can just say name all device fields. So now instead of just being thrust, it's thruster power level 5. So now it should work. There we go. All right. So it flies. Ooh, okay. So it is a little touchy, but it flies. And left and right is pretty slow because remember we only have the 2 of them. But roll is fast and pitch is quite fast. Oh, geez. Okay, that's a little. Whoa. Okay, we're gonna head back now. But okay, so if you just wanted a flying ship, that's how you would make one. But we're gonna tune a lot of things, and I'm gonna show you some stuff that will help you out, and is some stuff I just like online. So if you notice, you know, our left right was really slow, so that's annoying, and I don't want to, but personally I'm not going to do anything about it right now just for the sake of time. But if you wanted to, you could add another set of maneuver thrusters back here. So what you can do is say, remember our roll was pretty fast, you can change these from 100. So let's say we want to have the speed of our roll. There we go, 50 and 50. And then we want to do the same with our pitch, because our pitch was really fast. So there's 50 and there's 50. And so that limits how high it can go, how fast it can turn, which is just really handy. Then another thing I like to do is I like to go to devices, controls, and get these progress bars. So there's 12 by 24, and then there's 24 by 48. You can use either, doesn't matter. We'll use the big ones just for the fun of it. I don't usually use the big ones, but you know, it's been a while. And so, come on. Sometimes they want to, it's annoying to get them to snap, but so we'll just put those there and we'll bolt those all in. There you go. And then so you'll notice it's just panel value. So we want to rename that to certain things we might like in the ship. So say propellant. So if you wanted to say propellant, right, you can't just type in propellant. That doesn't do anything. So what you want to do is you want to go back here, and since you can refill propellant, you can just rename one of these tanks to propellant. So you want to see gas container stored resource, and you can just rename this to propellant. Boom. And that will link it with this. And now back there, so these can store 1 million units of propellant. So we want to go up here, and the panel max value up to 1 million. That's, what is that, 10,000, 100,000, million. Alright. And then so when we pop in, it'll show it as having 1 million propellant. And then if we move around, right, it'll drain our propellant. Now there is one thing I forgot to put on our ship. And if you noticed, when we moved off in the beginning, like I just hit forwards, but our ship twitched around, moved to the right, all that stuff. So one thing we can do to combat that is, oh, did my game just crash? Nope. Oh, what? Okay. Oh, we're good. But what we can do is we can add in batteries. So those are in machinery, power, and then where is it? Small rechargeable battery. So we'll just put them right here. So keep in mind these will blow up, but if they're hit, but it's a smaller explosion. Alright, so these do have the lowest durability, which is bringing it down to 1.43, but that's okay, because I don't want to bolt these in insanely. So let's connect them though. So you can kind of clip through things and bolt them or cable them up. There we go. And so now that should eliminate our lag at the beginning, because those will carry a little bit of a buffer. Or not. Okay, well it may just do that. But in flying now, so if you notice, our pitch is much slower than what we had, and so is our roll. But so here's I'd say this is actually reasonably speedy, but a little scooter to get around in. Now, there are three things that we can do more though, if you want to add in those little bits of extras. So the first thing is you can continue naming those panels that we had on our front area to other things on the ship, just so you can keep an eye. One thing I like to do is this one. I like to call this one fuel. So this is going to be our generator fuel. So you've got your fuel rod and your fuel chamber. If you're planning on doing this, rename the fuel chamber, because that way when you put in a new fuel rod, you won't have to rename the rod. So it's called fuel chamber fuel. If we just change this to fuel, there we go, it updates. And we want to change this to 300,000. So now fuel is in and propellant is in, which is pretty much what we need. And what we could do is add in radiation rate. That would be fun. That'll just show how much our radiators are being used. So radiation rate. Alright, so those are just some fun things that we can do. Now, you can automate your ship using YOLO or do handy little things. So I have several other videos that show several things you can do, but we'll just put in some chip sockets. And I like to, on any ship I build, I like to have chip sockets, just because if we want to upgrade it later, if we want to add in another system, we can. We can just put some code in and this will fix it up. Yep, and those are all bolted in right. So let's connect them. And they do have a connection point on all sides. There we go. Okay. So now you can get different kinds of YOLO chips. So when you place them down, and now I realized our cabling is going through this, so we're going to want to just connect it through like that. There we go. So we had to get that cabling out of the way so we could place this down. But so there are, again, 3 levels of YOLO chips, and they're described down here what they have. So you can go through basic arithmetic and logic up to professional, which lets you do stuff like advanced trig and stuff like this. So there are multiple systems you can add onto your ship, and I encourage you to do so. Such things are like ISAN or other navigation systems. These will let you get around in Starbase and let you know where you are. And those systems, they will specifically tell you how to use them when you find them online. And usually you will be using these panels or different kinds of panels to display their outputs. And then another thing that is going to become I'd say pretty large pretty soon in Starbase is a transponder. So let's go over here. So you can only have one of these per ship. Where is it? It's got to be somewhere here. Let's just search transponder. Here we go. It's in navigation. There's another thing in navigation we need to look at. But yeah, I'll show you in a second. So this transponder, if it's enabled, it will tell other people where you are, and it will tell different status effects about the ship. So if there's damage, if you're inside the safe zone, all of this stuff. And so one thing you can do is you can turn it on and off. So let's put a button up here to turn that on and off. So there are 2 main kinds of buttons that I use: the hybrid button right here, or the small button. The small button is made so it's not having to be placed on any like device platform like this. It can just be placed anywhere. But the small button, or the hybrid button, it does require that. So you'll see it light up as soon as we place it down, right there, and it's upside down, because of course it is. So let's flip this around. Alright, that are lucky. Yep. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to rename this to transponder. Is it transponder on? We'll just rename this to transponder. Alright, so 1 is active, 0 is off. So it's pushed in, that means it's on. Now, there are several things you can do with buttons. And so, you've got your on value, your off value, but you've got your button style. So what is this exactly? So 0 is just a push button. So you push, you hold down. But if you change it to 1, that changes it. So it's a toggle. So you can toggle it on and off. Whereas if it were 0, I would have to be holding this down for it to be enabled. Now you noticed it just turned off. That's because we forgot to bolt it down. So that's one of the things that I always forget to do, is I forget to bolt things down before I use them. So that's one thing that people on stream will usually help me out with, and it's saved my shifts a couple of times. So there we go. Now it's bolted in. And is this bolted in? That's a good question. Alright, so it's connected. And alright. This actually isn't though. And so, okay, that's what I'm saying about make sure you put your bolts down on these before you put pipes and cables over them, because you'll no longer be able to bolt in that prime spot. That might have been what was messing up our ship actually. But so the last thing that I would say is when you're setting up any of these navigation systems like ISAN or any of these others, you need at least a navigation receiver. And so this, it doesn't go flat, it goes on a where is it, on a hard point. Actually it goes on a turntable on a hard point, so we need to get a turntable, I believe. Do we? Yeah, okay, so you'll see this bottom, it doesn't fit exactly like that. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go over to, ooh, where is this? Is it cargo? Nope, it's going to be in machinery, and it's going to be in utility. And it's going to be not a fixed weapon mount, small turret turntable. So you see those two little jut outs right there? Those fit perfectly into the bottom there. So that'll let you turn it around. And then you put this on the bottom there. And bada bing, bada boom. You can just bolt this in like you would anything else. And you need to connect it up with power only. But so that'll let you let you hear other stations and things. So messages, signal strengths, all of that, and that's how those GPS systems work. So you can just add that in. But yeah, so from here what you can do is you can put on plating on the outside of the ship. You can so plating, you can make things a little bit nicer on the inside, you can upgrade components, and you can really just make it however you'd like. So remember, there are a couple wrong ways to build a ship in Starbase, but there's no wrong idea to go about it. So this is just really how I like to do it. And, you know, there's nothing stopping you from doing so many different things. So this, hopefully this has shown you how to make a basic ship that flies and throw in a couple of extra features that might help you in the long run. Even if you don't know how to program in YOLO, you can just ask other people or see in different channels in Starbase if people are willing to lend you things. Because you can do crazy stuff like that. You can get a script that will automatically manage your generator for you, so it's not running at full speed all the time. Or you can get things that will, you know, show your navigation where you are. And so yeah, I hope this video has really helped you, because now we fly straight, we fly fast, and it's a nice little skippy ship to get around in. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you guys will send me your creations when you eventually make them in my Discord, because I really love seeing what everyone likes to make. So thank you all for watching, good luck in Starbase, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.